How's it going, Frosty friends? Alright, Season 8 is here, and so, of course, we're going to have to do a patch notes review. So we'll be looking over the patch notes together here. With regards to the new legend changes, and the new weapon, I'll probably be pretty quick with those and be going into more detail once I've had some more time to fiddle with them and form more of an opinion. But, in the meantime, let's just sort of look at the whole thing holistically and sort of some predictions I have for the upcoming season that you're going to want to pay attention to as you are trying to rank up in Apex Legends Season 8. Alright, let's start with Fuse. Okay, so... Mercenary turned cage fighter. Finish for explosions, extra grenades. Throw them faster and further. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this without being a massive bitch. What the fuck? Like, there was a reason, like, why the limit on grenades went from 2 to 1. It was because of this thing that people didn't like, that the devs at Respawn agreed was not something they wanted within their game, was grenade spamming. And so the way that they compensated was making it so that people can't carry around enough grenades viably in order to do that, so that you don't have these situations where you've got players that are like chucking 10 grenades at once in a single fight and just winning the fight because there's nothing you could do when someone throws 10 grenades at you. Like, there's just nowhere to stand safely and you just die to the grenades. Like, so we're gonna have a character whose passive just allows them to go back to doing that again. And not only that, it's gonna allow them to do the thing that's really annoying and that nobody likes faster and from further away. And he's gonna be able to throw the grenades more quickly. So, interesting choice. Really creative there. And then he can launch a cluster bomb with airburst explosives. So his tactical is just another grenade that he doesn't have to pick up and he just constantly has on him. Cool. So then he can do that thing that we don't like people doing, which is grenade spamming. But he also can throw his tactical in there also and do it quicker and more easily. And he doesn't need to depend on loot in order to do it. Okay? Interesting choice. And his ultimate is to launch a bombardment that encircles an entire area in a ring of flames, which is basically just a super thermite grenade, right? It is my understanding. I'm gonna have to see it within the game, but if my understanding of that's correct, then it's just like another airstrike, which in general function very similarly to grenades, which means that he's just going to throw a gigantic thermite also. So, got a character who can carry around a bunch of grenades so that they can grenade spam. They can throw those grenades faster, further, and more accurately so they can grenade spam more easily. They also have a tactical ability that allows them to just have another grenade in their pocket that they can throw. And then their ultimate gives them another grenade that's actually just a gigantic thermite grenade that they also can carry around in their pocket and they don't have to loot for, and they just get passively. So this whole thing seems so questionable to me. I understand the desire to focus on grenades because grenades are interesting, but intrinsically grenades are already one of the most powerful options in Apex Legends. Like, in the scenarios where you use a grenade and need a grenade, it's just categorically better than any other option. Like, when you're using grenades, you're using them to control space, and the other option you generally have for controlling space is using a line of fire and a sight line as a discourage people from continuing to move into this area that you're trying to control. Like, grenades are just so much more effective at that because literally they can't stand there. So your line of sight is like a threat, but the grenade is there's a guarantee that damage will come for sure if they stand in that position. And also it doesn't rely on a line of sight, so you can throw it over pieces of cover and get the grenades into otherwise places you couldn't get them into. And so they're already a really, really powerful high impact option. And so to take a character that just does grenades but more, it seems really, really, really dumb to me. Not dumb, but it just doesn't seem very well thought through. I mean, I think it would have been, this passage, it totally could have been something more interesting, like each of the grenades do something different. Like maybe like he's actually able to cook frag grenades so that he can, instead of having to throw high pop frag grenades, right, he can just cook them so that they explode, at the right height. That would actually like be, a particular like a somewhat skillful thing that's like interesting, adds extra dimension to like the frag grenade without letting him just be grenade spam man. I actually think that would have been like more interesting. Like maybe like his thermites like throw in an X or something like that, and the arc stars like maybe they bounce once or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think just tweaks, like making it so that it just like was a modifier on the grenades. So not that it made the grenades stronger, it just made them more flexible, I think would have been a preferable thing to see. This knuckle cluster, we'll have to see how strong that is. Same with the motherload. All right, on to the new weapon, the repeater. Interesting idea. So it individual reloads and rechamber for the weapons. The weapon designed, I believe, to work from the range of sort of the scout range. And so that's its primary contender for its spot in your loadout. Again, this is one of the ones I really appreciate how they always put in important pieces of information like damage numbers and headshot ratios and all that stuff so that it's easier to form a concrete opinion on these things. But sorry, sarcasm. However, I think that I guess the thing you're going to be comparing it to is the Scout. And the Scout with a purple mag gets 20 bullets before it has to reload, and you can just spam fire it. So the damage profile on this thing's gonna have to be pretty incredible, I think, in order to compete with that. Map update, definitely gonna have to just move around the map to see how this affects things and play in the new areas before forming an opinion. Legendary magazines. Attaching it to a weapon automatically reloads your stowed weapons after a brief delay, which I believe was 5 seconds from what I understand. Having the same capacity as purple mags and is available for all ammo types except for shotguns. And it actually shows you that the gun's reloaded in the back there. Interesting. I was talking about this in the Discord earlier today with some of the other Frosty friends, and I feel like that this introduction of this grenade will favor slightly lower skill level players more. The way I put it is that like the gold barrel, like a good player will abuse the gold barrel, and it's like very high impact when it's present on their weapons. Now a good player will appreciate having extra ammo in the clip, but the good players hopefully don't miss as often, so they shouldn't need the ammo as much. Whereas like a lower level skilled player, they miss a lot more shots, and so having more ammo and better accessibility to, reloaded weapons, like even like looking at this situation, right? Like a top level player would probably never have to switch off their Spitfire in order to accomplish whatever it is, and they're trying to fire the weapon before being able to get back in cover, where they would just reload manually. So they could get a tactical reload. A lesser level player, they might blow through all 55 of these shots, and they might need the fact that there are 99 reloaded automatically for them. So I guess that's sort of my look at it. I suspect that the general flow is like you would empty the weapon with the gold mag, and then you would do a battery probably. That takes like 5 seconds, and then you'd be able to use that weapon again, like your primary and your secondary again, or whatever, some combination of that. Quality of life updates, the damage counter, to be completely honest, I don't think this is super important. I know some people will like it, but at least from a perspective of improvement, damage has never been like a super important stat to be tracking, right? Like you should be just tracking your win rate. I think that's like the biggest indicator of quality of play. And the damage tends to happen as a result, but the damage itself is not like the objective. So it's kind of weird to me to be tracking that in the middle of a game. But it's there, so for people that want that, I guess. This is helpful, so letting people know exact counts. I usually just use callouts, but that's fine too. That's a nice quality of life update. Color blindness stuff, lower blurbs, Wraith hitbox adjustments. Definitely going to play around with this and see how much of an effect it has. My instinct is to say that's totally fair. As a person who plays Wraith almost exclusively, I think that the character is too good compared to the characters. Like, you know, this is them throwing up their hands and saying, it's like, yeah, her abilities, like just intrinsically, the things that like form Wraith's identity as a character are just really, really good. And they are. And short of like just nerfing her into the ground or completely changing her identity as a character, there's not a whole lot they can do, I think, to weaken the strength of her kit. So now they're going after hitbox, which I think is totally valid, totally reasonable, making her slightly easier to hit. So we shall see how this goes. But I do hope it helps shift the balance slightly away from Wraith, because she is just really, really good. Really good. And I would really like to see more diversity in terms of play and composition. Shield's angle increased from 120 to 180 degrees. That's great, because before the angle on her gun was ridiculous and bordered on useless, and now it's maybe a little less likely to be like that. Wall health in the build phase has been increased from 1 HP to 45 HP. So I think this is going to help a lot, because when she was attempting to place the wall, it's like basically you just had to look sideways, you know, in the direction of the wall as it's being built, and shoot it once and it's gone. So now it requires that you actually turn and pay a little bit more attention to a wall that's getting built, and actually be a little bit more involved in being proactive about preventing a rampart from setting up. Yeah, so keeping a careful eye on this one. Yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one. So, because if it becomes too easy for her to place her walls, then she can basically invalidate positional disadvantages for free. Not for free, but like, you know, but like at low cost, because her walls are on such short cooldown. So yeah, so I guess that's just one to watch out for. Gravity life cooldown increase, that's fine. I think Horizon is quite strong right now. I'm not really sure if this is the thing that makes her strong, is the frequency with which she can use her gravity lift. I think it's more the actual difficulty of the shots that it produces and the way that players are using her Q right now. I'm not really sure if this is the point of attack in terms of getting Horizon slightly more under control, but I don't know. Maybe it'll help. Octane, jump pad, being able to crouch, or, well, yeah, being able to slide across normally for a high arc, being able to crouch for a low arc. Yeah, you're still jumping and soaring through the air. So while this does lower the barrier of execution that they're describing here, I think just doesn't really change that. The jump pad, I think in general, is not a super, super strong team option in comparison to a zipline or a portal. So I don't really think that helps Octane fix that problem that much. It just lowers the barrier of execution with the pad itself. So Octane's still super fun, still like not an awful character, not an awful pick, just not, I suppose, like an A tier in my mind personally. Crypto, removing the ability to stick arc stars to friendly drones. I remember seeing a clip about this, thought it was dumb, requires way too much setup, way too much time, so I didn't really think too much of this one, but I mean, I guess it's fine. Loot inside unopened care packages is now available and accessible through our black market. I thought that was already a thing for Loba, but I guess it wasn't, so now it is. And it'd be something that I would have expected from Loba, so I guess that's good. Caustic, all gas now dissipates as soon as their team is eliminated. This is really, 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 really nice, because one of the most frustrating thing is leftover caustic gas, which can completely just like obstruct a fight for no good reason. Mirage decoys create footstep sounds, still a trash character. Doesn't really change much, not gonna lie. Fully kitted rotation, just I guess things to think about here and be aware of. And attachments, pulling the gold barrel out of the loot pool, already talked about that. Double taps getting pulled in exchange for anvil rounds. I don't really know how I feel about this because I feel like the double tap, the big thing that the double tap did was it really helped prop up the EVA 8, especially at the early mid game before you can find like a purple bolt Mastiff. And so pulling it from the loot pool is like actually like a massive kick in the nuts for the shotgun class in general, especially the EVA 8. And I feel like anvil rounds are nice to have, but they're situational when I use them. And so the fact that they're a gold attached, I'm not really sure if they should be a gold attachment or not. But that's just me. So some people may get greater mileage out of the anvil rounds than me, and maybe it's just the way that I'm using them. Who knows? Volt, bullet damage decreased from 16 to 15, which is... Wait, that's a... I don't need to calculate for that. That's a 12.5% decrease in the effective damage of the weapon, which is very significant. So... yeah, I'm going to have to run the numbers on this one, honestly. Like, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but a 12.5 decrease in damage for anything is like actually huge. So this is very significant for the Volt. Alternator bullet damage increased from 15 to 16. So, on the flip side, this is actually even more than a 12.5. This is like, probably closer to a 13, 14, 15% increase in the effective damage of this weapon. So, makes you wonder, is like the alternator almost as good as the Volt now? I don't know. Again, I'm gonna have to run the numbers on this and like come back to you guys like with the actual effective DPSs of these weapons. But the Volt was for a very long, like for like the last 2 seasons, really, really strong, like probably way too strong. So I don't think it's inappropriate to nerf the damage. I'm just uncertain whether it's too much or if this was the point, or if it should have been like the fire rate or something else, or the capacity of the mag. Chipfire, I hate this gun. I actually hate this gun. Bullet damage increased from 18 to 19. So more people will fall into the noob trap of picking up instead of picking up weapons that are actually going to help them develop good aim. Awesome. Fine once players do have good aim, but a lot of players don't. So that's why I dislike the Spitfire so much, because I feel like it slows player growth and can hamstring players. When they would be better off picking up something like an R301 so they can actually learn how to do a proper track. Reload speed increased by 0.4 seconds. That's a huge, that's bad. It's very bad. It already had like a really bad reload speed, so it's gotten even worse. Same with empty reload speed, but ideally you shouldn't be reloading your weapons when they're empty anyways, and you should be tactically reloading, but that's something that's easy to forget. EVA 8, slight increase in the rate of fire. I don't know if this is like enough to save it from the from not having the double tap. Now, once you put a purple bolt on the EVA, it's faster than the double tap, but until then, it's not. I feel like big sad for the EVA 8. In terms of the gun pool, this will probably be fine. Probably won't be end of the world. Like right now, like I guess like weapons that like would be worth having concerns about. Like the Havoc's not out of control right now. The Volt, hopefully this will help rein it in. That was, I think, one of the weapons in particular that was a little bit getting kind of crazy there. Other than that, I feel like last season didn't have a huge issue with a lot of weapons. Maybe the single fire Hemlock. Well, the Hemlock actually still could use a little bit of a nudge, but it's in a better spot now. And then this weapon we're just going to have to see. Caustic, sonar abilities no longer stop Caustic's highlight vision. I kind of expect that anyways. Fix a few exploitable. Didn't really have problems with that personally, but that's fine. That's weird that she was ever able to do that in the first place. Not super important. Okay, that, like, I didn't know that was a thing. That's actually ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how that, like, happens, but it did, and so it's good that they fixed it. Don't really know anything about that either. Didn't really have any personal issues with that. This stuff is all sort of irrelevant from an improvement or gameplay standpoint, and this stuff, I guess, also similar, but I never really saw anything like with thermites dealing damage through weird walls or anything like that, but good that they fixed it if that wasn't intended. So overall, I think I think except for specifically, I am very concerned about Fuse. So except for the new legend, I think overall the changes are fine. And like they're just interesting. They're not necessarily amazing or awful. They'll benefit certain players more than others, certain playstyles more than others. But this character, it seems to me, is very poorly thought out. And so I guess we'll see when we start playing, you know, sort of how good he really is. But, you know, I guess I'll be getting back to you guys on that. All right, so I'm going to be switching into actually playing Apex now, and I'll be back.